lichess. I'm International Master William Paschall. We are accepting casual 15 plus 2 challenges only. I'm just going to decline other challenges. You guys that are wondering why I decline your challenge, because it's not 15 plus 2 casual. World Losers got it right. So far I've had 4 challenges, only one of them has been 15 plus 2 casual. We've had an 8 plus 3, a 6 plus 3, I think another 8 plus 3. Future GM, Future Chess GM. Future Chess GM, I don't think he's online. I guess you're talking to yourself. You said hi, Future GM, and you said hi. Okay, guys, here's the deal. We're gonna be doing 15 plus 2 challenges. Today is just for longer games. I usually play 6, 7, maybe 8 if we have a short game. We try to go a little bit longer today, as long as 1 o'clock. I can go the full 3-hour stream, so or close to it. We've got the times back to normal between the US and Europe, which makes it a little easier for me to schedule my stuff. If you're watching or listening, I just declined your challenge because you basically challenged to the wrong time control. Yesterday, there was another guy, Fluke, and the third person I'm spacing out on. We had a third challenge that I had to decline because it was like 8 plus 3. So if you'd like to come back, other people's who I declined, let me know, and I'll try to put you back on the list. FM Mupovac was banned yesterday. Wow, why? Mupovac. Hari Shiva. He was banned. Let me see. Actually, what's his name on lichess? Oh, no, I can't remember his name. Was it Mupovac? Yeah. He was banned. Wow. He was banned for computer cheating. Okay, it looks like, I don't know, we can only speculate what happened. He played a lot of games with the Slovenian grandmasters. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really have sense to speculate. I mean, maybe something with those games they didn't like. I didn't concretely suspect him of computer cheating. He did play really well. I don't know him personally, so anything's possible. But he was really strong. I will say that. Anything's possible. I don't trust my own grandmother, basically. But I don't know. You know, the problem is that sometimes they ban people a little bit without enough evidence. So it's really tough. I don't know. FIDE Master, usually they get some credit. I don't know. Maybe he was switching screens or something suspicious happened. Hard to say. I didn't get the feeling he was a cheater. I got the feeling he played some really accurate games against me, though. He did, you know, it's not out of the realm of possibility that he was using an engine. I didn't suspect him concretely. Usually, you know, I get a feeling. It's hard to say, though. You know, he did play some highly accurate games, but I didn't concretely suspect him. Anyway, never know for sure. It can't really be proven beyond the shade of a doubt. Maybe he was playing the Slovenian guys and they got suspicious of something. Sometimes the administrators pull the trigger a little quickly, but I would think in the case of a titled player like that, they would kind of give them some slack. So maybe there was some solid evidence. I don't know. All right, let's get started with 15 plus 2. Ominous Monkey, yeah. I mean, I've known grandmasters who cheat, but usually there's money involved. You know, when you see like grandmasters cheat, but not always. I've seen grandmasters cheat just for the reputation. So At least one. It's it's hard to say. Anyway, let's get started with the 15 plus 2 challenges. World loser. You guys can rest assured you never have to worry about it with me. I'm 100% human. Even when I was like playing this grandmaster who was cheating, you know, I have to admit, on another site to be named, I have to admit after the certain grandmaster cheated against me and some other strong players on a regular basis, and we knew he was cheating, but he just wasn't getting caught. The temptation was there to like use an engine against him. You know, I have to admit, it did cross my mind. When you know the other person is cheating with a computer, it goes through your mind to think, well, I'll use a computer against him. But I've never ever cheated in a single online game ever with a computer, because it just, I don't know, it would take the love out of the game for me. You know, I just couldn't do that. When I was a little kid, I used to cheat against my mom in Monopoly. But as I was telling another little kid recently, if you cheat, it just takes the fun out of the game. The game's not fun anymore. You know, that's the fundamental basic rule that I learned by cheating against my mother in Monopoly. Yeah, people are, you know, it's kind of like asking, well, why does a millionaire, you know, steal money? Because he can, right? All right, bishop b2. But I want to just caution everyone that, you know, before anybody runs around like saying like so-and-so is a cheater, you know, I don't really consider like being, I don't really consider being banned here on lichess temporarily to be, you know, absolute evidence that you used an engine, because I've definitely seen some people falsely accused or falsely banned. So I would reserve judgment on any one individual until a later date. Let's see. You know, it's possible that like some strong player got angry and then, you know, complained, and an administrator jumped a gun and banned them without enough evidence. Anything's possible. All right, so c takes d, c takes d. World loser, how did you trick me here? You just played a very quick e5. Is my move order bad? Maybe I'm supposed to play queen c2 first. Well, we can play this. We can play this a couple different ways. It's interesting to think about bishop to b5. Bishop to b5. The problem is bishop b5, bishop d6, and then something like knight e2. He can just do a number of things, castle out of it. I don't like my position already. G4, anyone? D4 was better. Oh, you mean better than bishop b2? Well, the best move of all is queen c2. I don't... World loser, who was it that played bishop b4 in a similar position against me recently? I just didn't think you could get away with doing this so early. But I guess it's a stupid question, because of course you can. You're threatening to play e5 and you do it. Even a tempo down, e6, e5, occupying the center. Maybe I should transfer my knight right away, like knight e2. Knight e2, knight g3. Alright, let's just try this. Nimzo Indian. Raoul maneuver. I'm not sure if this is a great idea. It looks very slow. But it's something that's done in like it's basically borrowed from the St. George or Owen's defense type positions. Usually this knight can transfer later on. It's a little early. I think that d4 is very insipid for white, and I try not to play that once I've made this exchange on d5 like here. Now d4. d4, e4, knight e5. I'm probably going to lose a pawn. d4, e4, knight e5. It's actually knight takes e5, pawn takes e5, bishop check. Could also play knight to g3. His career is over. Protagon, what? Is Protagon here? How do they check if you really are a master? I don't know. In my case, it was fairly informal. All right, knight to g3. Okay, world loser. You got the better of me out of the opening. I think there you should really, you see, this is where world loser plays too fast. He should really consider playing h5 here to punish the knight on g3. Maybe it's not good. g6 first. Sorry. My bad. g6 first, stopping knight f5 with the idea of h5, h4, and not castling. So it's just a very strange noise in my office. Then it could be some kid trolling as if he... I mean, no, dude, there's no way this guy was trolling as if he was somebody else. He was playing 30-second and 45-second bullet. I mean, it was a strong player, so it's not a computer playing 30-second bullet like a FIDE master. It was definitely a real deal. The only question is if he was getting assistance. I mean, beyond his normal strength. That's possible, you know. No, it was definitely a human being, and probably a real person, and probably the real guy. I mean, there's a question of whether he was using assistance or not. I don't know. This setup looks dubious for me. Oh, I think I just made a mistake. I should play d4. I mean d3. I guess d3. I don't really like my game. Yeah, now world loser, he, you know, sometimes in this kind of position, it's like a Rossalimo. You can trap the knight on e5. Because of the placement of his pieces, you know, he can't do something like knight e8 and f6 to trap my knight. He's played this well, though. Knight g4 doesn't look like it would be a good idea here, given that I don't I don't have anywhere to put the knight after g4. Although knight takes g6 probably improves his pawn structure a bit. Very easy to play black's position. So anyway, it's hard to confirm anything. I mean, how are you going to prove in a court of law? Do you think they could like prove in a court of law that Mupabots or anybody cheated with a computer? It comes down to like a judgment call, you know. I mean, nothing is 100%. Nothing is 100% provable by scientific means, but I think it's just a matter of making a judgment call. Somebody thought it was likely that he was using an engine. I don't know, you know. You'd have to talk to the administrators and the people making the accusations. I will say that he played some games, a lot of games with a very, very high percentage of good moves and low percentage of mistakes. So, but it's not a player I know in real life, so it's hard for me to like really. I have no idea how strong he is. Like, for example, a FIDE master could be like 2400 plus. You know, he just never got the IM title. He could also be very weak. He could be like 2050. It's hard to say. I mean, I noticed that last week he played a match with Rubenovich where Rubenovich, who's like an IM rated around 2350, it looked like he was running him over. And the other day I played 2 blitz games with Mupavats. Man, he was strong. I was begging for draws in both games. So, you know, he's very strong. It seems like in blitz. Here, I don't know what to do. I don't like my game. I just hate my position, basically. Now what? Actually, against World Loser, was it against you I had a similar game? Or was it against someone else last week with the Bishop B4? Was that you? Same line, but with Bishop B4. Wasn't that 15 plus 2 as well? Whoever was playing as Mupavats is a strong player with very good blitz skills. But that doesn't rule out, even if you know it's a human and strong player, still doesn't rule out the possibility that they're cheating. But it's very hard to confirm or deny either way, you know. It's computer detection here is like, it's an art, not a science, as Rango might say. I don't know. But if he's innocent, you know, he should definitely appeal. Okay, we managed to trade our bad bishop. That's the first step in the right direction. That takes away probably his best attacking piece against my king side. We're just going to try to hang on for dear life, basically. I just had to weaken my queen side a little bit to even get this far. You know, moving these pawns on the white squares is not really ideal for me. I'm basically defending from the get-go. What did I do wrong? I allowed e5. It's my first game. I'm a little bit sleepy, and I just kind of sleepily let him play e5. The whole idea of this anti-Slav is to stop e5, and when he played, or otherwise prevent it, maybe not directly but indirectly, and when he played the next move, knight bd7, I need to play queen c2 first so that I can meet e5 with c takes b, c takes d, c takes d, c takes d, knight b5, threatening c7. But instead, I played bishop b2 and he just played e5 straight away, and then my position is already like slightly worse, it appears. This is a highly accurate move, rook f c8. And now we have to contend with some issues. Guys, I did a simul last night with 25 players. Queen c2 prevents e5 by threatening to use the c file if black plays e5 right away. It's a very important concept. It's basically a Cully system with colors reversed. And I'm playing a very good defensive setup against the Cully with an extra tempo. Okay, here we have to be careful, but I think it's okay. If I play rook f c1, we're probably okay. At first moment, I was afraid he would trade on c1 and invade on a3, but giving up the c file, I think, is too big a concession for black. So white's probably almost okay here. But I had a very similar accident in the opening last week. Same system where black played very early bishop b4. and I just completely got nothing. I have to pay more attention in the first 10 moves of these anti-Slavs. Objectively, it's not really dangerous for black, but then again, what is? You know, like, the main line of the Slav is probably equal. It's really hard. The Slav is probably black's most solid and most popular defense to d4, and, you know, if anybody knows a way to get an advantage by force against it, just let me know. It looks like World Loser just made a quick move, which he's apt to do, and we can win a pawn here. If he takes back with the rook. If he takes back with the bishop, he cedes the c-file. So that's not my only move. I could play bishop b5. Bishop b5, interesting. Is bishop b5 too slow? In any case, it's probably a reasonable positional move. Getting this bad bishop to a position where I can exchange. It's actually not a bad bishop, but it's very, very much blocked in. I'm talking about a bad bishop in terms of these pawns being on the same color. It is, in a sense, a bad bishop. So, I mean, I feel like I'm fortunate to be even not worse with white here. Like 2 minutes ago, we were almost clearly worse. Now we're close to about equal. Maybe better than equal because of the c-file. Simul yesterday was pretty good. For those of you who are wondering. Okay, now it's going to get problematic. Okay, I have knight f1, so I won't get mated on the back rank, hopefully. I hope I'm doing the right thing here. Oh, he's got 10 minutes to my 3. I mean, I'm thrilled with the draw. This is luckily still okay for white. But if you want to see the analysis here, I mean, I think that black's advantage was pretty sizable at some point. After e5, the computer thinks I'm still better. I think that's totally crazy. Okay, maybe if I played d4, I wouldn't be worse. Well, Eingorn lost with white. 2001. I'm not the only one to wander into this. Actually, Eingorn is one of the best players. Flores twice did this with white. That's terrible. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I can't talk. And this is a bad novelty. And then my position was clearly worse. Alright, wait a second. I want to just look at this for a second with 92. It's a bad move. But in this position, I thought g6. Yeah, the computer first move is g6. This is very instructive. You know how black should deal with this. g6 immobilize the knight from going to f5 and h5. And consider playing like h5, h4 for black, a very aggressive plan. I think that would have been best. You know, he was never winning, but he was better. Looks like the biggest advantage was he was like almost a full pawn according to the computer here. What does the engine want to do? F takes g6. That's weird. I'm not sure about the engine here. If I trust its evaluation of minus 0.9. Alright. Difficult to say. Let's go back, and we don't have any challenges. Here they are. Alright. 4 challenges. Ayeste Muleskinner. Muleskinner was the other person who disappeared. Mysterious Labyrinth and Dan Tar. Bobby Fischer, the Slav. How to get advantage against the Slav. You're a pawn up. Sanalitza, very fine day. Sanalitza, A4, Bishop F5, 95. Bobby Fischer. I mean, that variation, good luck with that, man. You could spend 3 years of your life learning to play that. I spent a lot of time with Jorge Samor Hasbun, otherwise known as Jorge Zamora. We analyzed some of those lines with 95, but I don't know if you realize like how much memorization goes into playing that variation, Bobby Fischer. It's you know, like 30 moves of theory in every variation. Extremely hard to memorize everything that's gone on there in the last 30 years. So I just generally would want to avoid this. Probably the 95 Slav is probably one of the most complex d4 or queen pawn openings in existence. Too much theory for me to comprehend. Ayeste is next. 15 plus 2. Let me move this message here. Edit scene. Alright. So guys, we're going to be playing 15 plus 2. I'm going to lengthen the stream a little bit. Usually I play... let's play c6. Usually I play the 95 main line of the Slav Bronx defense. It's Bobby Fischer just threw in a line there, a 23 move variation. Anyway, I'm just saying I don't play that variation with white because it's one of the most sharp and complicated variations in d4 d5 theory probably. So the Slav and the semi-Slav, if you want to play the main lines, require hours and hours and hours and hours of preparation. I mean, at a professional level. And I'm basically like playing queen c2 on move 4 to try to limit the amount of time that I have to prepare. But one of these days I'm going to get around to preparing again, you know, main lines of some kind. But I always tended to play e3 instead of 95, which isn't as dangerous for black, obviously. But it is the sharpest and probably best try against the Slav. The variation with 95 on move 6 that Bobby Fischer's talking about there. But anyway, my game with Mr. World Loser was actually a semi-Slav, which is different, but just as complicated. I guess, did we have this in the... Why is this familiar to me? I had a game with somebody last week in this variation. World Loser in the Simul, you lost very badly. I was looking at that. Yeah, you played a strange variation. You played Queen C7 early in the symmetrical English main line. And I saw a few strong players had done that, but with not good results. You basically deviated from the main theory pretty early with Queen C7, which looks like it's just a sort of second-rate move that doesn't equalize completely for black. But then you just made terrible tactical oversight in a position where you should just be slightly worse. It should be playable, but World Loser, your only fault is playing too fast. As you did here a little bit. I think you could have maintained some advantage against me if you were really careful in this one now. Guys, I want to let everybody know that I have a YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. Posted a Sarawan game on Friday that I like a lot. Another update that we should all know is that from April 1st to April 11th or 12th, I'm not going to be streaming here because I'm going to be playing myself. Not playing myself, but playing, comma, myself or whatever. I will be playing in a tournament to make it more clear what I'm trying to say. And focusing on that, and God, I hate exchanging pawns on e4. Am I supposed to play bishop c5 or something? Bishop c5, knight f3. Now my e5 pawn's hanging, and I don't have a great way to protect it. Well, I guess we can play knight on b to d7. I guess they're very solid. I was lucky to win against him in the simul yesterday, or was it a draw? No, I can't even remember. I think I did win, but I didn't really deserve to. Neil Skinner, I also lost my last 2 games, but it was all my fault. Neil Skinner said I played 2 over-the-board games yesterday in traumatizing fashion. Played and lost. These positions, like, I don't know what to call them, how to classify it. It's like a King's Indian attack versus c3. You can equate it to, like, okay, black played the modern defense and white played like 2 pawns in the center with c3. It's like e4, g6, d4, bishop g7, c3. A lot of players automatically just kind of give up the tension in these positions and trade to equalize, which is fine. I mean, that's got to be about equal, I think. But I'm sometimes wondering, like, why do we need to give up this tension in the center necessarily? We can try try for more by keeping the tension. White's position can turn into something like a Roy Lopez, like he's black in a Spanish game or something. As far as the pawn structure goes, White is very solid. Any London experts here? What's your FIDE, guys? Well, nowadays, I guess more and more players have FIDE ratings, where that wasn't always the case. Looks like I'm around 2382 at the moment, unofficially. First, I've got to get it back over 2400. That's the first goal. And then the second goal will be to get it to up around 2450, close to where my maximum was. And then ultimately, eventually, up to 2500. That's our ultimate goal, at least in the mid-range time period. To get to 2500 FIDE would be my all-time high. So if we can achieve that, I think we'll be happy. And I think a 3-year time frame to do it would be reasonable. If I can't play that much and my rating K factor is really, really low. I have the smallest K factor of 10, so my rating changes very slowly. It's hard to gain and lose points. I don't really like this, the FIDE rating system. I'm not really thrilled about. Some players are, almost strangely have a 20K factor. It's based on whether or not you went over a certain rating, I guess. Seems very arbitrary to me. It's hard for me to gain and lose points. So it's very annoying. I have to play tons of rated games, basically, to change my rating. If I can gain maybe 50 points a year, it would be awesome. That would be incredible if I could do that. Gain 50 points a year for the next 2 years. I'd be all set. I'm not setting any records, but... How about exchanging on e4 now? Not very inspiring, is it? One thing you got to know about this kind of structure, these points are very weak. If a knight gets in there, somebody's going to have problems. It's hard to know where to put this bishop. I mean, I can put it on b6 to keep it on this diagonal. I mean, this is why I went for this. Basically to play knight d3, the weak square. You think you found a new idea to play b6, a5, and a4 in the London. Worked fantastic. Strange sounding concept, Mule Skinner. I guess we would need to see what exact position you were talking about. We're talking about as black, right? I understand b6 against the triangle formation in London. The triangle formation. Yeah, being like e3, d4, c3, you mean. And you're playing b6, a5. You like to do that, Mule Skinner. You like to do that in the French. Extend your queenside pawns. It's a French defense. London system more popular than ever at the club level. What do you mean I'm not drinking coffee? I have a huge coffee here. It's like massive. I'm even feeling like kind of hyperactive. I think I had too much. I feel a little bit like sort of jumpy. No, it's a massive. It looks like I'm drinking tea, but do you see the size of this cup? This is like massive. Couldn't be a tea. I guess it could be actually. Yeah, I think I'm a little bit... I may have had too much coffee too quickly, actually. You could never know. I mean, I'm not jumping around, but... I feel it. I feel the caffeine. Rook takes c1. Got the bishop pair. It's not exactly of earth-shaking significance in this kind of closed position. But long term, you know, it could be worth something. When you don't know what to do, sit down and think about the position and just kind of like think about what's going on long term. I think I was telling one of my students this week, you know, the single most important skill you can have in chess is the ability to evaluate positions. So, can we evaluate this position here and what's going on? You know, centrally we're about equal in terms of controlling central squares, but black has a bishop pair, slightly less pawn weaknesses because I haven't played like g3 and h3. The problem with the position is the fact that, okay, I've got a bishop pair, he's got two knights that could be good in this closed position. We have a very powerful dark squared bishop that's unopposed here. One thing I want to watch out for is letting him trade down into an ending where it's like two knights against maybe knight and bad bishop. where he just has really good dominant control of the white squares in the position. I think that's a possibility that something could go wrong for me in that sort of situation. Sorry about that. Tough position to play, really, for advantage. I'm just looking at Mule Skinner's variation. A5, A4, it's a strange idea to me. It was some kind of energy drink, so he slept 1 hour that night. Huh. Yeah, I'm too old school for the energy drinks. Actually, it was funny. I have this chess team here, the Hungarian First League, and there's this guy who's like 80, and he's literally an international master who was a lawyer. He didn't play chess a lot of his later life because he was working in his career. So now he's like retired. He's 80, and he's a very, very strong player. I mean, he's still close to 2,300, even though he's 80 years old. And it was funny because like last time we had a match, he lost, but he was like drinking energy drinks. This 80-year-old lawyer, international master, Liptai. I never imagined like an 80-year-old dude would be drinking like Red Bull energy drinks. But he lost his game. Alright, I don't know what to do here, guys. I'm really kind of stuck for a plan in this position, to be honest. Maybe we'll take a page from Mule Skinner's concept. Grabbing space on the queen side. So guys, tomorrow is Blitz and Classical Chess. Wednesday, Weird Wednesday, when I play unusual openings. Thursday, back to normal Blitz and Classical. Friday is Fast Friday, where you play just 5+3. Every day at 10 o'clock CET here on lichess and Twitch. And from Saturday, I'm going to be off for 11 or 12 days, playing a live tournament along with some team games mixed in with it. So basically non-stop tournament games every day for me from the 1st to around the 12th of April. And I want to devote all my energy to playing and preparing for my games. So no streaming during that time unless there's like maybe impulsively I decide to do a live stream. But don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be back around April 13th. April 13th. I don't know why that's so familiar. What is it with April 13th? My dad's birthday was April 14th. I remember it because one of my best friend's birthday was the same day, but April 13th. You ever have that when you remember like a date as significant, but you don't remember why? What could it be with that day? April 13th. Alright, A4. Yeah, he's carving out the white squares here. I mean, this makes sense. Yesterday's very, very solid. I don't know what to do. I don't want to play bishop e6 because it just will like get traded off by like bishop f1, bishop c4, or maybe he just harasses me with knight g5. Queen c7 might be a good move, over protecting my weakness. Well, my strong point, which could be a target, you know. I mean, he's gonna maybe threaten knight c4, double attacking that guy. So I'm thinking about overprotecting him. I normally don't like to square in the King's India and other openings, but here it seems okay to me. It's an extremely boring position. I made the decision to create symmetry by d takes e at one point because I felt that, you know, if I don't, he might have a way of getting an advantage. When you don't know what to do, push your rook pawns. I do that a lot. Well, but Vinnick actually talked about this with the bishop pair, like concretely, it is good to push your rook pawns because sometimes in the endgame, the rook pawns supported by the bishops become very strong passers. But Vinnick did it a lot like in the Sicilian defense, playing h5 and a5 in the Richter-Rauser. There's no, you know, it's not a coincidence that rook pawns go really well with bishop pair. So I don't mind playing h5, a5. Actually, g6 and h5 on the king side might not be a bad idea because my bishop can come out to like h6 and stir up some trouble, King's Indian style. And h5 might be an idea. It's also a little bit weakening, but I could consider something like h5, h4, trying to play for h5, h4 somehow. But I have to be careful about it. But basically, this is a pretty boring position. You know, I'd also consider expanding with like b5 at some point. If I could play maybe rook b8 and b5. But I have to take care about the d5 square. If I ever play b5, I could give up control of the d5 square. If white gets a piece there, that's a big problem. No tactics here at all. Wednesday, April 13th is 4 out of 13. 4 equals 1 plus 3. That's amazing. I'm figuring that's when I'm going to be resuming my stream, approximately April 13th. Okay. I don't feel like I have a lot of choices here. I mean, this is basically standard maneuver. Overprotecting e5, maybe knight c5, maybe knight b6 to trade off the knight on c4. More or less equal position. What happens a lot in these King's Indians, it's basically like I'm playing the Tory attack against the King's Indian or something like that, is that black will end up, or I will end up with like a bad bishop, and he ends up with a good knight. You know, I don't really want that to happen. Knight b3 was a bit of a weird move for white there. Now I play knight b6. I don't want to just trade pieces with him. I mean, that's not right. Not the right idea. I mean, this pawn is weak, though. So we're just massaging the white position a little bit here. I don't love this square. Now what? f6. Then my pieces don't have to babysit this pawn. My bishop is kind of bad, though, and it does weaken my white squares a bit. We're going to go bishop e6. I'm not concerned about King's Indian garbage like knight h4. It's not good. I mean, I could just play g6. Knight h4 is a little bit overrated in this type of position. He wanted to, you know, actually I think it was an optimistic move by white. I guess he was thinking like help chess, you know, hope chess, like knight b3, like I'll just play knight c5 and you know, make his life just a bed of roses. Like we'll just trade off the knight on b3. Hope chess. Hoping the guy does exactly what you want him to do. If you say 13th of April, makes more sense. At least it's not a Friday the 13th of April. My schedule's not set in stone, though. It looks like the GM tournament I'm slated to play in was still as of yesterday short 2 players. So there's not even any guarantee it's going to take place, first of all. And secondly, now there's some nice weaknesses. Knight back to d7. The problem is there he has knight d7, knight c4, knight c5. Actually looks good for me. Just let me know if I'm hallucinating or missing something. This is obviously the better square. You know, we also weaken him a little bit. We got him to weaken his queen side. White's still pretty solid, though. It looks like it's going to be hard to take him out. But again, b5. b5 is a possible idea. Once I remember watching a game, I think I was watching a game that my friend Kosich Dragon was playing, and he was basically playing my setup with the colors reversed against somebody. This b4 or b5 in this case is a normal mechanism to try to like kind of force White to give up space to maybe trade off toward the center, but give me more play along the c-file and stuff. This could definitely be an idea for black, but as I cautioned earlier, we have to watch out for the d5 square. I mean, if something like boing, 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 you know, then playing b5 is going to be a very, very serious mistake. Okay, boing, boing, boing. It looks like he's preparing to play maybe like bishop f1, bishop c4. See, the problem is I yesterday that I play this type of setup myself, so I know exactly what you're going to do like before you do it. More or less. I know what you're going to do before you're even sure you know about it. b5 is interesting. I have to make sure the d5 square doesn't fall. He's trying to play bishop f1. Although he has to watch out for his h-pawn. I could also play bishop c5, actually. I'm not sure what the follow-up is with bishop c5. It just sort of looks nice there, but what does it do? You know, typical situation, really. Just making the move for the sake of it looks like a good square, but if it's not coordinated with all the other pieces, what's the point? You know, bishop c5, esh. What am I going to do? We go for b5 here. Kind of risky. Only live once. This will stop occupation of c4, gain some space. But it's a very double-edged move because I could lose control of the d5 square. It's basically degenerating to a blitz game. I mean, one of the factors I'm taking into consideration here is that you know, his rook is in a very bad position. He basically needs to maneuver a knight through like e3 to d5, and that's obviously going to be hard to do with his rook on e3. He doesn't really want to take, you know, and give me like an outside passed pawn with these two bishops raking down on the queen side. So it's basically a tricky situation for both sides. I anticipated like bishop f1, queen b6, kind of just protecting. I have several moves. Could also play rook b8 or something like that. I wouldn't mind, you know, bishop f1 so much. Okay, now this radically changes the situation. He's got very, very bad dark squares after c4. It's not my only move, but this is definitely probably a good way to play. Definitely probably. Knight takes a4 is on the agenda. I mean, his pawns are a little weaker than mine. But the dark square weaknesses are really significant here. You know, he no longer has access to c4 with his pieces. His bishop is very bad. And the dark squares for black are like a free-for-all. It's a free roll. Free rolling the dark squares. So this bishop ends up being a jolly joker, as we would call it here in Hungarian chess. Yeah, Kosich Dragon is from Montenegro, isn't he? I don't think he's actually from Montenegro. He lives in Montenegro. He wasn't born in Montenegro, as far as I know. He played for Montenegro. Actually, there was just a Montenegrin championship. I didn't check to see if he was playing in that. So he's not like a. I think he was born in Serbia, if I'm not mistaken, but originally. But he played for the Montenegrin team for a long time and lived in Montenegro. Not a bad deal. Montenegro's near the Mediterranean. All right, rook e d8. Actually, I just saw on Chess Bomb there was a Montenegrin championship going on. This is the time when a lot of countries have their national championships. I'm just making this move because you're not welcome here on f5. Black's building up a lot of momentum with the pieces here, but I'm still not sure I've got anything really concrete. It's starting to look good though. Oh man, we're monstrously active. And eventually we hit pay dirt. Pick up an exchange and a pawn. Pawn. Oh, he's dropping his queen. Panic. I should probably take a rook first with check, huh? So I asked that was instructive. Where did you start to go wrong? I think around the point when you played knight b3, you know, you failed to have a really good plan. Mule Skinner, I'm on that lean. Dantar, Miots, and Mitar. We got 2 hours. So I'm going to play as many games as I can at this time control. I can't do hyperlinks. Alright. Guys, if you want to contact me while I'm streaming, don't send me a message on lichess because I don't like to open my private messages while I'm streaming here. So if you want to send me a message, you know, send it on Twitch just into the chat room and I can read it there. If you want to tell me something kind of like with 4-letter words, put it in the chat on Twitch so they can just Mubak and ban you. Shenzhen is going on right now. Right. Alright guys, let's springtime, there's a lot of chess tournaments here in Budapest. Just finished the Budapest Spring Festival yesterday. I didn't play because I was holding out for this tournament I'm going to be starting on the 1st of April, which may or may not have been a mistake. I probably should have played in the Open rather than in a strong Open rather than a round robin tournament, but for whatever reason, here we go. I don't want to be away from the stream, you know, for multiple tournaments at a time. You know, I'm committed to doing this and committed to teaching and you know, taking a tournament every few months is good for me. But I don't want to be playing, you know, one tournament after another. I don't have time to do that. Bishop to b5, knight d4, main line. We might as well just get it out of the way. This is the only variation Mule Skinner ever plays against the Sicilian. It's a solid line for white, but Mubot timed out and Anabama for 10 seconds. Reason. Excessive use of symbols. I think that Wesley so panicked and wasn't at his best. What is 4 out of 4? Yeah, Adams is getting invited to a lot of tournaments lately. I love the way he plays though. Mule Skinner, what's up? Railbird 80. Well, the reason I mentioned Kostic is also because he's supposed to play here with us in next month's GM tournament in Budapest. I don't really like playing against my friends, but you do what you have to do. Bishop to d3. I think that Mule Skinner has played the other variation, right, with castles in the past. There's also knight takes d4. Isn't this more common? You can't do knight takes d4. What am I talking about? No, bishop d3 is the Gingy attack. Roman Gingiashvili, my former mentor, publicized this variation in his series of videos called Roman's Lab, like 15 years. It was actually like 18 years ago, probably 20 years ago. Around 20 years ago. These videos, he made like VHS videos called Roman's Lab. I guess they were on DVD too. But he highly publicized this line. I never really thought a whole lot of it, but it's actually, it's not so bad for white. It's probably a fairly solid way of playing, in fact. Although here, something strange about this, you're definitely supposed to take on d4 there. And now I can play bishop to g4. It's strange. I mean, Mule Skinner's supposed to take now. When I remember Roman had faced bishop takes d4 and pawn takes d4. Pawn takes d4 being the main line. Once we discussed like bishop takes d4. But castles allowing bishop g4. This is a new one. I can play bishop g4 and then he has to allow the double pawns or play bishop e2, which looks kind of insipid. Or I can just pretend like nothing happened and play knight f6. But that's kind of complicated because like knight f6, e5 actually seems a bit strange to me. Richard Rapport. He's crazy. Yeah, we have played Richie once and we smacked him down in 23 moves, something like that. But that was a long time ago when he was making his last GM norm. Castles here. Again, like bishop g4, interesting. I don't know. All right, I don't really know. I mean, it seems to me this is critical. I don't know if Mule Skinner meant to do this he can't play h3 because I take and take on h3, you know, so I guess he can do something like queen e1, which might, and that might amount to an exchange sacrifice, actually. I'm not castled yet, which is kind of nice to give me some extra flexibility. But I don't know if he did this on purpose or he just messed up his own move order. Chess police is coming. I actually, it's not the police. I think it's an ambulance. They're just constantly ambulances. I live not that far from a hospital, so that explains the ambulances. A few blocks away. Almost continuous ambulances. Sometimes it does get on your nerves. So, there's a tournament in China. You're saying Hare Krishna. World Loser said, I'll play in the Amateur Chess Championship in Poland. Rapid chess of 10 minutes plus exactly April 1st. Polish Championship going on now. The closed championship. How do they determine the players from the Polish Championship, I wonder? There's only like 10 players. There's an awful lot of grandmasters in Poland. They're like a qualification for that? Or is that done by rating, World Loser? You have any idea? No, good luck, World Loser, if you play in that. I think that time control is good for you. Rapid chess of 10 minutes plus 5 seconds. Well, bishop b5 check. Okay, now we have to make a decision between... I mean, bishop d7 looks ridiculous, so I either have to take it or play king f8. King f8 looks ridiculous. Alright, we're going to take. So I think that Mule Skinner has basically gone into a variation like a tempo down. Got the hiccups. Drink my coffee too fast. Yeah, so a tempo down. Like he wasted tempo on bishop back to d3. You could say it's even like 2 tempos down. I could even play d5 for that matter. No, that doesn't make sense here. Yeah, actually, d5, pawn takes pawn, a6 would be very similar to a theory line. Come to think of it, just that it feels like I have an extra move, but I wasted it on d6. So we both wasted some moves here. If I play d5, but if I don't play d5, I just play some kind of natural move. I don't know. There's no clear way to do anything to white here tactically. I mean, everything's protected. b2's protected. This guy can retreat. He's ultimately got some attacking chances on the king side normally in this type of Grand Prix attack. So d5 though would be interesting. The idea being like pawn takes pawn, a6, knight c3, knight f6. Let's do it. Wesley So got crushed by MC. Oh, this is the World Chess League or whatever, professional chess league. What's it called? Online chess league. Chess league. Let's just call it chess league. I'm not good with initials. I'm always kind of skeptical about online chess tournaments. Maybe they'll make the chess league work. The US Chess League never really quite became a big deal. chess.com is backing the Pro Chess League. I guess that's one of the reasons I'm not that into it. Partisan. It's like a partisan chess league. I guess everything's partisan, though. Every tournament has some kind of sponsor with their own interests. And that's sort of the nature of things. Anyway, so this is a funny variation. I mean, normally, like, I would have this bishop back on c8. And then pawn takes pawn, knight f... No, pawn takes pawn, a6, knight c3. So in a sense, I have an extra move here. I was looking at this 2 weeks ago, some lines with this. I saw that Emanuel Berg, notably Swedish Grandmaster, plays this line for white. I remember being a little surprised by that. You know, it's normally a variation I would expect more from like amateur players playing white, not like GMs playing this line. A6 is a move that I like to kind of normally wait on because it's not the most constructive move for black. Knight f6, keeping the tension, perhaps. Neil Skinner also all about the tension here, basically. Queen b6. I mean, if queen b6, he just simply plays knight c3, and then the knight's heading back for d5, which is very bad for me. So you have to be careful how you deal with this knight on b5. It might be better to play something like queen d7 and just walk the queen to a more safe square where it's less likely to get attacked in the future. Queen d7 a4, for example, though, it's kind of irritating. It's just a good positional move for white. I'm not really sure how to handle this. You guys can see that already. I feel that black has a good game, but I don't concretely know what to do. If I'm really a wimp, I guess I could play a6, knight c3, take on c3, take on c3, take on e4, take on e4, trade queens, and go into this ending. Go in that ending where I'm not worse for sure, probably. But then again, maybe I am, because I've kind of weakened my queen side. But he's got the e4 pawn to worry about. Tricky situation. a6 is a weakening move for black, and I'm not really sure I want to do that. Well, I need to develop my king side, though. And I want to play knight f6, but I don't like e5, and my knight gets sent to a pretty bad square on d7. I'm not really thrilled about that. So we're in a quandary here. I think I have a good position, but I don't know what to do exactly. Aforementioned endgame. What if I played like queen d7, knight c3, takes on c3, takes on c3, takes on e4, takes on e4, traded queens, played knight f6, and then I've got the same endgame without the weakness a6 being played. That's probably not bad for me. I'm not thrilled about this, though. I guess he can play a4 as well. I don't know what my plan is, really. I'm kind of making a move here without a clear plan behind it, I'm afraid. Pseudo-developing move to a safe square with the queen, but I'm not sure how I'm supposed to follow up. You know, should I play like knight f6, knight h6, e6, a6? I don't like making moves without a plan, and I feel like I don't have a plan here. I looked at the ending with bishop takes c3. That's pretty lame, actually. I could exchange on e4. You know, a4 is a really annoying move. Really annoying move. I'm probably going to be forced to play a6 at some point, and I don't really like it. Maybe knight f6. Where am I going to put my knight? On h5? It's not great. I don't know what to do here. I feel that my position is okay, but I don't know what to do. I don't like any of the candidate moves. a6, knight f6, maybe h5 or something like that. He's threatening pawn takes pawn now. I'm just starting to hate my position. The crazy idea of playing knight f6 and back to g8 may not be that bad, actually. Is he threatening pawn takes pawn here? If I play something like h5, I just really don't feel like making a move that I'm not happy with. I mean, d4 is possible. I didn't really talk about it too much, but it's not something I normally like to do in this type of structure. I don't understand Mule Skinner's score against me because he's way better than that. I'm not going to get into that, but some kind of very strange variation here. Bishop d4 check. Just doesn't do anything. All right. Now if e5, knight g8, but he didn't. Play queen e1. Right, this has got to go. I mean, it's possible that queen e1 is better. Is better than e5. Definitely possible. He might be looking at some kind of crazy intermezzos like e5 there. a6 now seems almost forced. Maybe black's position isn't great, but it's not that bad. Not that bad. I'm just not happy with the result of this opening. I mean, it felt like white should have been in trouble. Allowing bishop g4, wasting a full tempo, having to play bishop b5 check. That seems ridiculous, you know, and then I end up like slightly worse. It's very strange. I guess I should play d4. It's basically like a King's Indian, where some of the pieces have been traded. I don't think his attack is all that dangerous, with 2 sets of pieces off the board already. Normally I would think that white would have some attacking chances on the king's side, but with 2 sets of exchanges already off the board, I think black should be okay here, more or less. We have the lever c4. Also reminiscent of like a Bogo Indian. But Mule Skinner plays a very steady game, just as sometimes he seems to melt down in time pressure. It's just that, well, I mean, he's not in time pressure here, and so he just plays very steady moves. I just didn't want to make a move I wasn't happy with. I mean, it started with Queen d7, really. You know, I mean, this point, I just couldn't figure out a plan I was really satisfied with. So we have c4, but I'm not sure. I'm going to get rid of that. I almost played it. c4, e5, I guess that looks possibly dubious. Okay, so it just kind of turned into some sort of King's Indian or Bogo Indian with closed structure. It's really irritating to play against someone who never ever lets you get an open position. The best I can do against Mule Skinner is to play the Caro-Kann and play the black side of the Panov attack, which actually I think is kind of a weird choice for him. But I'm not playing the Caro-Kann. I can play the Scandinavian and get him to transpose to the Caro-Kann Panov if I want to play an open game. But he seems to know that pretty well. He's getting better at playing open positions, I guess, or at least that particular one. The knight a3 idea, Milich, actually, I agree with you. You know, in some positions it makes sense, and that's something that should be considered. But his a4 pawn is hanging in a lot of lines. But absolutely, like in the Bogo, I mean, you're going to go like knight a3, knight c4 is going to be a better route for the knight. You know, I also think that knight e2 is less active. But I guess here he had to play it a certain way. Okay, now f5. e6, e5. Knight g4. I'm about to lose on time. Knight g4 just helps his attack. f5 is a brilliant move. Plays flawlessly. Always the same. f5 was perfectly timed. So I can't play e6 because of e5. I'm not really sure what I can do around here. I need the knight to protect my king side. Can't really move it. Standard attack. I guess I have to play h5. I don't know what else to do. Five minutes with a massive attack. I don't know how my score is 68-5 because every game Will Skinner seems to have me in trouble. There's no defense. Just crushed in 20 moves. It's just an absolute catastrophe. Perfect play by white. Just ideal. 3 minutes more than me on the clock. It's hard to believe that Will Skinner is 1700 in Blitz. I mean, I don't really conceive how he can have 68-5 and I just can resign here. My pawn is just hanging, and I'm just crushed in every possible way. And we can look at the game, but I don't think there's a point. All right, we're gonna start the next game. I'm on that lean. It's 1673. It's not about time pressure. I'm just crushed 6 waves from Sunday. Like, I didn't have a move, you know. I just resigned. I mean, there's no move. It just that white had the perfect position. There's nothing I can do. I was just crushed like a dog in 20 moves. And I mean, I spent 15 minutes thinking about how to stop it. There was no way to stop it. Pretty impressive game, dude. I've never played this player before. I'm on that lean. It's a strange name. Alright. Petrosian variation. Wow. I was just playing this in a correspondence game. Will Skinner, what's your over the board rating? You have like an ELO rating? Because against me there, I mean, you played like a GM. I mean, if you mixed up the move order, it doesn't seem to matter because, I mean, that was, in fact, it didn't even help me at all. Like I don't see how I even derived any benefit from that move order mishap. You know, if anything, my bishop's ending up on g4. I'm just training it off. It probably helped you. Railbird, I was just losing material. I mean, it's not a question of endgame. I'm getting mated in like 5 moves. There is no endgame. I'm just getting checkmated. Like knight takes h5, pawn takes h5, queen takes h5, resigns, or pawn takes g6, pawn takes g6, knight takes g6, resigns. It's not a question of endgame. There would be no endgame. I'm just getting checkmated by force. I mean, it's a total disaster. a4 is a very bad move. You know, if I thought there was 1% chance I could reach an endgame, I wouldn't resign. But I just put myself in a situation where I was getting checkmated because I played d4. But White's play was very subtle, and there's a lot more to the game than what actually happened. And you know, like many games, chess oftentimes is a case where it's all behind the scenes. You know, everything that happened in that game was like behind the scenes. Like I spent 15 minutes thinking about variations that didn't happen, more or less. That's where the really interesting part, you know, kind of lies. All these variations I was thinking about lead to positions where I was slightly worse endgames. You know, he plays a4 instead of knight c3. This is a very subtle move. You know, he chooses to play like f5 at the right time. There were a lot of things that just didn't happen in the game, you know, that I spent a lot of time thinking about. That's where the really interesting part is. This is a strange variation with an early a4 that seems inflexible for white. So I guess we should just go with like the standard King's Indian type of attack with knight h5. You know, I'm playing for f5 if I can. He doesn't have b4 on the queen side to try to open things up. Ultimately on the queen side. White should be trying to get a queenside attack. a4 makes it more difficult. Exactly. I mean, yeah, it makes it very difficult for white to ever fluidly open the lines on the queen side. So a4, although it's occasionally played, you know, Korchnoi played it against Kasparov in the Mar del Plata variation. It was kind of slightly more logical there than here in this Petrosian system, which is basically a little more passive for white than the main line King's Indian. So a4, it's Blue Crow. The computer points out that d6, d5 isn't good in the last game. I mean, yeah, in a vacuum, Blue Crow, it's not good. But if you think about the position, it's the main line, like a tempo up. I mean, I'm playing the main line variation with a free move, bishop g4. You know, while the computer is probably right that d5 is not the best move, you know, I find it very hard to believe that black is worse there. You know, I don't think that d5 can be a bad move. You know, it may not be the best move, and it's definitely not the most flexible, but if you compare that position, he's like wasted a tempo off the normal lines, you know. So, but my decision to play bishop g4, and then another thing that he did, like Mule Skinner, I was thinking about him playing e5, but he doesn't. Like, I spent 3 minutes thinking about like what's going to happen if he plays e5. He just instantly plays queen e1, which is totally, you know, there goes like 3 minutes of my thinking on a move I didn't really take as seriously, you know. So I'm spending all my time on other things that didn't happen, and then we end up in this position where I'm just, you know, worse because I avoided all these other variations that were kind of scary or strange. I didn't really trust it. I could have gone into an endgame, traded queens, been slightly worse, probably, you know, held the position, but I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to suffer. I thought I could get, you know, a fully equal game some other way, but I just walked directly into like a standard Grand Prix attack, basically. I gave him the ultimate, you know, standard Grand Prix attack, basically wasting all my time on lines that never happened. The e5 thing was also because he played so many e5 E5 Grand Prix attacks. Right. Right, yeah, he played the similar lines all the time. It's the other main continuation for white, you know, in those variations. Well, not E5, but, you know, knight. He basically castles, allowing knight takes B5. It's also a main line. Rook E1. White playing as if it's like a classical variation, some kind of let's just play knight F4 and F5, I guess. And I gotta be careful about this though. If I play knight F4, bishop F1, everything's okay again. And H6 is weakening. What's up with like F5 here? Maybe that's actually best. F5, knight G5, then knight F4. F5, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn. Alright, so F5, I guess. I gotta be careful about my move order. If I play knight F4 first, I think bishop F1, and white has a good game here. And basically, last game I wasted my time, I mean, thinking about variations that were never played, and then I made some very routine moves to go into the structure, which is terrible. He has a ready-made kingside attack. I underestimated, you know, I said with 2 pieces off the board, I thought that his attack wouldn't be that strong, but I was wrong. It's absolutely enough. Like, every single one of his pieces is perfectly placed in that structure, and there's nothing I can do. It's just, you know, you could beat a computer in that position. I mean, there's nothing you can do. That's it. Once I castle and he plays F5, it's like resign. There's no way to get out. I can't get my king away. He has 5 pieces, like, just perfectly harmoniously placed to checkmate me. And it's very sick, but there's nothing for black to do. I don't think there was any defense. I mean, I could have taken back my last 4 moves, and still, there would have been nothing I could do, you know. Once I castled, he plays F5, it's like over. Maybe the engine could find some kind of way for black to wiggle out, like just being clearly worse and not lost or something. But it's a terrible situation. You know, maybe just right off the bat when I played D5, yes, that's not the best. Queen D7, so I made a whole like mess of mistakes in that position. But he confused me. He confused us both with the strange move order. And then once I commit to bishop G4, he hasn't played E5 yet. So I think that bishop G4 maybe doesn't make sense. Bishop G4 is a move I make if he plays E5. But the way he played it, I certainly never considered the possibility of him playing bishop B5 check there. You know? After bishop G4, bishop B5 check. It's like, what? Okay, F5. If knight takes E5, now let's say variations. Well, pawn takes pawn, you can take your pick. I mean, bishop takes F5 is okay, but it's probably better to take with the pawn, or at least very interesting to take with the pawn. Both moves are interesting. Bishop takes and pawn takes. Pawn takes, knight takes E5, bishop takes E5, bishop takes H5, queen H4. That's probably winning for black. So he doesn't have knight takes E5 tricks here. And if he does something like pawn takes pawn, knight G5, knight F6, or even, yeah, knight F6 is fine. I've got E6 covered by 2 pieces. That's kind of a main point here. This is generally not a good move in the Petrosian variation. Bishop takes E5, bishop takes H5, queen H4 is still good for black. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what we just said, of course. I mean, taking on f5 and playing knight g5 is a very standard kind of thing for white to do. And it's possible that that's his best here. And I don't know, like, even taking with the bishop is interesting for black. It may be better for me to take with the bishop. He almost has to play, well, he has to play queen d1 there. So now bishop d3. This is a bad piece, in a sense, so I'm not sure I want to take it. You know, it's kind of like last game. Closed position, the knights are better than the bishops. We can roll the king side. I don't know if there's anything wrong with f4 in this position. Probably not. Since the queen side can be locked up, you know, we'll just close this up. Because of a4. I'm going to opt to play for a kingside pawn storm. There's also like knight f4, but I don't like that. Bishop takes, pawn takes, e5, and white is probably better. There's there's always time to run away if you want to try that. But I think this could be complicated. You know, he might be able to defend with, like, I mean, I don't know what to recommend. It looks like black's pawn roller is pretty strong. But perhaps there's a way for white to defend this. It looks like a standard King's Indian where my attack is fairly powerful, fairly fast. I'm not that well coordinated though. You know, knight on h5 is not great in this structure. We need the standard King's Indian stuff like rook f7, bishop f8, g4, g4, g5, g4, or g4, g4. Is bishop d3 is worse than the bishop g7? They're the same. They're the same. Basically, useless pieces, except from a defensive standpoint. Maybe the bishop d3 is not worse because it can go to e2 and have some kind of effect defensively. Right. I mean, Mileage is kind of right. You know, the bishop theoretically can go to e2 where it still has some relevance, whereas this one is really hard to use. Trust me, I've played King's Indians where I maneuvered the bishop to b6. I mean, it happens, you know, and that happens in the King's Indian in really classic games. But now what am I going to do? G5? I'm not sure that's necessarily the best right away. Why does it bother me to play g5 right away? Something about it feels like I should prepare it somehow first. Well, this is like a defensive rook. We're gonna play like bishop f8, maybe knight back to f6, knight e8, turn it into a Mar del Plata. I could play g5, but h3 bothered me a little bit. And then, like, well, how do I, you know, play without g4? I don't love g4 a lot there. And maybe bishop f6 is another idea. But again, this knight on h5 is a real problem here. It's not well placed for this pawn roller type of situation. So I was thinking bishop f8, bring it back to f6. Now this is a good move, knight b5. Try to avoid playing b6 if I can. I mean, slowly maybe g5, g4 will even be good for black. I'm not sure if this was the best, the way I played it, but... The problem is now knight f6, now knight f6, knight g5 is annoying. You know, maybe... I should play rook g7. It's a good move by white. Very heads-up play by white, getting some activity on the queen's side. He's actually threatening to win a pawn here. With knight takes e5 now. It's like super irritating. So I guess I should play knight a6. But I just think my attack is a little stronger now that I have rook coming to g7. We can start thinking about g5. Maybe I played this too slowly. I don't know. The dark squared bishop is the better one. I mean, I don't really want this one with my knight. Still not really thrilled with this. And ultimately this knight would be a good defender from e8. But I feel like I played this too slowly. g5. He's threatening c5 or not? This looks strong now. He really needs more time. I mean, the bishop on f8 is an important defensive idea. Stopping this or discouraging c5, let's say. Yeah, I can play knight takes c5, and then if knight takes e5, d takes e5, my knight is protected by my bishop on f8. You know, here the question is, should he play h3 or not? He could also just retreat his knight voluntarily. But I feel like black's kingside attack is pretty strong. It's just not the standard square for this knight in this kind of line. Although it's better than having a pawn on h5, which is usually getting in the way too. Yeah, g4. So then the big question is, knight f6 probably makes sense, huh? I mean, we can play g4 though. Is it enough to just play g4? Maybe. g4, take. Bishop takes g4. It just looks like he might be able to protect there. He might be able to defend. You know, so we'll use the full pawn storm. Obviously g3. He's just hanging this too. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. A4 is a really bad move, but it's not like losing the game or something. Peter still thinks he's a little better after that. The engines thought I was like just basically much better pretty much throughout. Alright. Mio, it's 15 plus 2. Rook A3 is a standard defensive maneuver, but he was too late. I think you are late. You are late. This is what this old guy said to my friend when he offered a draw after he had declined an offer of a draw before. Then this old guy beat him. It is late. I was sitting there like laughing. You know when one of your friends does something stupid and you know you shouldn't laugh, but you can't help yourself because something is so funny. You shouldn't laugh at your friend. Once I was playing in a tournament, a big open, and I had a friend who always loved to like tell me how excited he was about his positions, and sometimes he talks too much and he like always has to tell you the update on how he's doing, and he came running up to me telling me how, oh man, you have to see my position, I'm like crushing this guy. And like right in that moment I walked up and the guy was just absolutely smashing him with like the first move that I saw. And that feeling like you can't control yourself, like the situation is just so funny and ironic that you start laughing, even though like you shouldn't and it will hurt your friend's feelings. It just you can't control the laugh from coming out. I just started to like crack up, like it was just so funny that here he was saying what an awesome crushing position he had, and the minute I like got off from my board to like see, he was just getting annihilated. So it was it was like just too funny. You should never count your chickens before they hatch. I'm trying to make an illegal move here. Two moves in a row is something that I do specialize in at times. I'm going to try to stream a little bit longer today. Usually we stop at 12:30, but since it's long games, I try to go closer to 1 o'clock. When your friends always like, yeah man, check out my position, I'm so awesome, I don't like to talk about my games because I feel kind of like it jinxes you, I mean, I'm a little bit superstitious. I don't like to go around saying, oh man, what a great position I have, because then, you only set yourself up for disappointment. It's like, you shouldn't really talk about your game, but I mean, everybody does it a little bit, like, oh man, I have a really good position, or without talking about moves. I mean, it's very typical. And that, oh man, I'm gonna win. And then you walk up and they're just getting crushed, like the very first moment after bragging about how great their game is. Queen takes d4. Here we are again in our favorite standard symmetrical English position. Yesterday against World Loser in our simul, something similar where he played like Queen c7, and I don't know if World Loser is still here, but that's basically not a great square. It's apt to get attacked along the c file. So he ended up moving his queen a second time, or something weird like that. Anyway, this is main line. We had several games in this variation yesterday. Right. I expect the worst when I never get disappointed. Exactly. I had a funny joke with one of my friends. My friend who taught me how to play chess. Well, how was it when we took like an exam in school? We used to like kind of make side bets so that, you know, for money, basically, about like who would get the lower score. It was a way of, like, you know, giving yourself like a consolation prize. If we would bet like $5 that on an exam, like who would do worse, basically. So it was like, if you did get the worst score and you were disappointed, you get like a consolation $5 or something. So that was not a bad idea, you know, to avoid disappointment. So bishop e6 from Miots, this is this very controversial move that was analyzed by John Watson and John Donaldson, I think, pretty extensively in some chess chess informant, the Yugoslav chess informant, like 10 years ago. Those English opening guys had a game with each other, and these are the two guys who are like the foremost experts on this system with white. And I guess bishop e6, this has always been a controversial gambit. But I'm just trying to remember now. Bishop takes b7. Rook b8. What's the idea of bishop g2? I can't even remember if I'm supposed to play bishop f3 or bishop g2. I guess you take, and then rook b8, and then back to g2. And then black plays something like, what can it be? I don't know, but I think I'm trying to remember. I think I'm confusing two different lines, basically. There's definitely a variation with like bishop d5, but I think that looks kind of artificial. Anyway, Watson and Donaldson analyzed like pretty extensively and came up with the conclusion that black has a playable line here. I actually looked at this a month or two ago with the engine pretty heavily, and it looks like it's also viable for black. Like, black equalizes one way or another. Now I've forgotten how it goes. I mean, bishop f3 would be logical in some sense, so that the e2 pawn is not unprotected in some lines, but it's also like there tends to be a fork on e5, maybe knight g4, knight e5, or knight d7, knight e5. So I'm leaning toward, you know, the standard bishop g2 here. But I don't know that Miots knows this, or he just kind of stumbled into this position. I mean, I'm not sure that he really is an expert, you know, on this variation. I think he just played bishop e6 because it's a natural square for the bishop. Maybe he doesn't know the gambit that's going on around here. Like, rook b8 isn't the only move, too, I would guess. You could play bishop h3, but it feels like a tempo loss. So, since you've already moved the bishop to e6, I think rook b8 is only move. Bishop g2. I can't remember now. Maybe just knight d7, maybe queen a5. Maybe, was it queen a5? I'm not sure. Knight d7, threatening knight e5. That seems logical. But I can play b3. I mean, I'm not really sure what's happening after b3. Does he have something here? b3, knight e5, queen d2, queen a5, bishop b2. Bishop takes c4. And I think that might be analysis. Wait a second. b3, knight c5, queen d2, rook takes b3. There's some crazy variations with that too. And also I should consider actually knight b5. But I don't know, man. Knight b5. There's ideas of knight takes a7 and knight c6. But I don't think I can do knight b5 here. Knight e5 is just a concrete threat. I guess I should just commit this variation to memory. But I haven't had occasion to face it. We're such a happy and positive group. Completely grinding ding down. Swidler also seems busted. Yeah, I just love the way that Adams plays. Hope for the best and get some consolation if it doesn't happen. That's my system. All right, b3, knight e5. Actually, why would I go to d2? I could go to c2 there. If I were to play b3 and black were to play knight e5, why not play queen c2 instead of queen b2? There's something to be said for that. There's also bishop f5 sometimes, because e4 just blocks my bishop on g2. But it's still a tempo, and yeah, I'm not sure about this position. Knight d7, was it the best move? There are other moves available. Possibly queen a5. I'll have to take a look at this after the stream, because this is a pretty important variation. I'm not sure that it's been fully worked out anyway, but if I were playing in an open tournament, I really should know what I'm doing here. Next month I'm playing in a round robin. I can prepare for most of my games, so if this variation were to be likely, I would definitely take a look at it. Guys, check out my YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. I put up a video on Friday of a Sarawon game that I like a lot in a King's Indian. Why don't you install Safari? Okay. Knight b5, knight e5, and black wins the c-pawn. Right. Well, I mean, the thing is that we were planning on knight takes a7, threatening knight c6. So, you know, it's possible I could give him the c-pawn and then have my own ideas of knight b5, knight takes a7, knight c6. That's the question. You know, knight e5, like knight b5, knight c5, queen c2. He has to make a move there. But probably something like queen a5. It's not that clear. Knight b5 comes up in similar positions. I mean, this idea of playing knight b5, there's taking on a7, and there's also going to d4 and threatening c6, and also blocking like this guy's diagonal. This idea is pretty standard. Knight b5, knight d4. In some lines of these, some gambit lines where black sacrifices this pawn on b7. I'm not sure about this one. This is our current position. Knight e5, you know, my first inclination is to play queen d2. But the problem is like queen a5 there, bishop b2, and he can do really nasty stuff to me. Like knight e5, queen d2, queen a5, bishop b2, knight takes c4, pawn takes c4, rook takes b2, maybe queen takes b2, bishop takes c3, and then take on a1 when he ends up at least equal. So very long combinations that will probably simplify, into a decent position. But I was talking, and I didn't talk about this possibility, actually, of queen e3. That might be the best square of all. We can meet queen a5 with bishop d2, and black doesn't really have a way forward anymore. I mean, what's he going to do? Sack a piece? Knight takes b3, pawn takes b3? It's not really enough. He has some compensation, but probably not enough. No, and I was talking about queen c2. That's the other one. It does make some sense, though. The problem with that is bishop f5. Ooh. Actually, that's the problem. Like, bishop f5 right away probably kills me. Queen c2, bishop f5. I don't have e4 because of knight takes e4. Alright, never mind. So this is like forced. It looks basically forced. Black seems to have some compensation. It's from Rwanda. It says he's from Rwanda, but I don't really think so. Also, a lot of people here floating around from North Korea. YouTube video by Sarawan. You guys are following the Shenzhen tournament. It's, what time is it in Shenzhen? It must be like evening. How many hours ahead is Shenzhen? Oh, Miyotsu is really from Rwanda. My apologies. You get a lot of people who just put obscure countries, as a joke. So, Antarctica. I can't imagine there's that many strong chess players in a small country like Rwanda. Queen a5. I mean, you'd have to be one of the strongest players in the country, I would think. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure Rwanda even has an Olympic team. I get people who say they're from like obscure islands where there's only like 1,000 people population total. UTC plus 8. You mean you're not attending the Arctic Open? It's hard to believe the people who claim they're from North Korea. But I feel like whatever. People mess around. It's okay. We don't have to be serious about everything. So black's got some compensation here. But he doesn't have any immediate breakthrough. My queen is safe from harassment. I am up a pawn. And again, this maneuver of knight b5 might be... The other thing is I could sack the exchange. I mean, sometimes I could actually sack my rook on a1. At this point, if his kingside is weakened and I have a pawn or two for the exchange, that could be good. I'm actually threatening discoveries. Knight b5 is a big idea because it will take away the a3 square from the queen. So again, that idea crops up of playing knight b5 to control this, because he's going to hide in there, like on a3. It's actually probably his best move. A 1980 video. That's kind of scary. Grainy at best. Versus Karyakin. Giri was +5. This is a tournament in China that's going on now. Okay, this guys we do just once a week, 15 plus 2. Normally my streams are Blitz and Classical Chess between 5 and 8 minutes. Tomorrow we'll be doing that, just 5 plus 3 up until 8 plus 3. 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. We're going to be streaming this one for another 40 minutes or so. Yeah, this stream will end a little bit later today because of the long time control. I like to make it a little bit longer when I can. Last week I had to leave at 12:30 because of the time change hadn't occurred yet, but I have a little bit extra time this week. Super Pots are asked about knight d5. Yeah, looks like black found the only move, queen a3. How much compensation does black have here? Well, I'm a little bit tied up, you know, and he's going to try to play like a5, a4, classic accelerated dragon. We've won our games against Miots. 1700 Blitz, 2000 Classical, 2000 Bullet. Pretty solid. Well, what about knight b5 here? Well, knight b5, he sacks the exchange, then he takes on a1. Then I take back, and then he takes on b3. Or not. Funny situation there. Knight b5, rook takes, pawn takes, bishop takes, rook takes, knight takes b3. Kind of ironic. So I think I can play this. This queen is actually really useful laterally. His queen is, in a sense, trapped. All this really achieves for me, I think, is some liquidation. But his bishop on g7 is a really powerful piece. And I'm up a pawn. So I don't mind trading that off. Queen a6 suggested. But queen a6 is kind of passive. You know, I would just ignore it and play bishop c3. You know, we don't have to play knight c7. I think the knight is a great blocker. This piece just interferes with everything. If he plays like knight, queen a6, I don't play knight c7. I just leave the knight there. This piece is defending. You know, it's like in the Benko gambit. Sometimes getting control of the b5 square is really huge. So if queen a6, we just go here, you know, and we just kill his long diagonal, and he's down a pawn for basically not enough compensation. Now, this may be an error. Because what about this? What if we take first on b3? How much compensation does he have? Is that possible? I think that's interesting. Knight takes b3. I mean, heck, he might even have bishop takes. A bishop takes, queen takes, e7, we get kind of random. But I don't know. I mean, I think taking on b3 looks like the right idea. I had a strange sensation here that this is good for me. But at the end of the day, I'm only up a pawn. So I guess it's not that clear. But I don't think he can take on c3. My trick is the quiet move, queen c3. I know Miotz is listening, though. Because he heard that I questioned his national identity, whether he's really from Rwanda. So he's listening. He's actually able to hear what I said. There's a little delay, though. I mean, maybe he doesn't hear me say about queen c3 in time, with the delay on the stream. You were talking about rook b1, but rook b1's not good enough because it drops the a2 pawn. That's why I have to play queen c3 after knight takes. Queen c3 defends a1. It's a nice little trick. I'm actually threatening b4, I guess, in this position. It's pretty much going to make life awkward, come to think of it. So bishop takes c3, same thing, queen c3. I don't think there's a move. I'm threatening this. And again, queen c3. And there's just like no defense. Right. The point is that a1's protected. But the question is, could he have taken on b3 without taking on a1? That would make all the difference in the world. Now here he's just down everything. There is no saving this. Alright. So analysis board, where are we at here? Theoretically. Very important variation. Bishop e6. So bishop d2 is actually more common than the bishop takes b7. But there's a lot of draws. Bishop takes b7 is obviously critical. Rook b8. Bishop g2. And so queen a5 was the main move. Okay. So this is the main analysis here. Queen c8 was played in one game. The computer likes rook c8. That definitely seems weird. It hasn't had much time to think. You know, it'll probably like queen a5 better. This position, as far as I know, you know, okay, it goes back to 2000, a Filipov game with white against one of these like strange. There was a lot of suspicion about some overrated Malaysian players, I think, back then, around 2000. There was a scandal with a bunch of artificially 2600 players. That's that Filipov game. But 1981, okay, the idea was known long ago, but he's supposed to play queen a5, knight d7. So this isn't enough. b3, knight c5, queen e3. The computer likes queen c2, and then that's a very interesting trick. Queen c2, I was afraid of bishop f5. The idea is queen c2, bishop f5, then queen d2. Interesting. It's a trick. Queen c2, bishop f5, queen d2. Rather than queen d2 right away, which would allow queen a5 with the nasty tricks of bishop takes c4. So this is a secret move. Queen c2 first, inducing bishop f5, then queen d2, and then he doesn't have queen a5, bishop b2, bishop takes c4. So I played only the second best move, queen e3, when he could continue with something like a5 and some compensation. Plays instead queen a5, and then bishop d2, and then interesting move, queen a3. Apparently I had knight b1 here. I just totally missed it. Backwards retreating move. Good to remember that for the future. But the engine thinks that black has no threats here. and so I should play h4. That definitely wouldn't be my first thought. But anyway, knight b1. Okay, so this was a mistake, but not a bad move. Rook takes, pawn takes, critical, and then knight takes b3. Right, so this is the key position. What do I do after that? It's basically an exchange sacrifice for black. I have to play rook b1, queen takes a2, bishop c3, and the question is here. I guess I have enough advantage that this is pretty significant. So he doesn't have quite enough compensation for the exchange. Someone was talking about bishop d5 maybe. It's possible. It's not really a constructive move for white though. No, this move is just doesn't really do anything. Okay, you can play it. Alright guys, let's move on. Knight b1, I'll keep that in mind for next time. He's supposed to play queen a5. Okay, I forgot how that goes. We're gonna have to refresh the memory. Because that could happen. That could very much happen in a tournament game. Mitar, we've played before. 22-27. Alright, an e4 game. We have time for at least this game, and maybe another game, maybe another blitz game. We'll see. Basically. Yeah, Turska, he probably missed queen c3. I mean, I would very possibly miss that too. It's one of those moves that's easier to see for you than for the other guy. We did have some marshals lately, or a marshal in the Simul 2 weeks ago. You know, if you want to be on the safe side, you can play d3. Mainline Lopez. No, he plays mainline, no marshal. Okay, so here we are in the Chigorin variation. It's cool, we haven't played one of these in a long time. And now there's two ways I like to play, basically. The mainline with d4 and also d3. Smyslov played d3. It's a quiet move with positional plans. I mean, I like to do this because people tend to not really, know what black's supposed to do. In the other lines, when you play d4, I mean, there's just tons of theory and people can memorize everything. And I feel like with d3, it's a little bit passive, but it's really just like a quiet Joko piano type of position. It's just about playing chess, not really about memorizing moves as much. And I think that's a good practical choice. But also, with the Berlin defense as popular as it is, a lot of people are playing d3 type of setups to avoid the Berlin. So if you're doing that anyway, playing such a setup with d3 is pretty standard. Okay, queen c7. I think that's probably right. Basically, white's plan will be to play for control of the d5 square. I'm not sure if I should play bishop g5 right away or knight bd2 first. It's interesting to play bishop g5 right away. I'm getting a message on my phone on a Monday. It's actually someone calling me. I'm gonna let it ring. If they let it ring like more than 5 times, it's definitely someone I don't want to talk to. But it only rang 3 times. We're getting the light show here. sunny weather here in Budapest. So this is the last game, Mileage. That's open to interpretation. You're next, actually. Well, no, if he loses quickly, it's not the last game. If it's a really long game, it will be the last game. Mitar knight b7 is a very passive play by black. Not terrible. I mean, obviously he's looking for knight d8 and maybe getting his knight back in the game. But it definitely is quite passive. I mean, sometimes the knight on a5 can go back to c6. It can support c4. So this is really... I'm not sure what my plan is here, but I think we could consider playing d4, a delayed d4, in some situations. After this, especially after this very passive knight b7, the ability to play d4, that's often a nice thing about playing the d3 sort of lines in the Lopez. Oftentimes black kind of falls asleep and forgets that you can play d4, and you see a lot of games in the Joko Piano and Lopez where strong players, you know, basically win games when they get in d4 in the right situation. People like Hari Krishna, Michael Adams, a lot of guys who play the Joko Piano, for example, you know, the Karyakin also likes to do it. Get in d4 later on, and you can get black to give up the center in a simple position and just get an advantage. So it's kind of like sometimes when I play the white side of the Grunfeld, in the Grunfeld I can play a sort of quiet setup based on white playing e3 instead of e4. And oftentimes people go astray as black in the Grunfeld when you play e3. They just kind of let their guard down and think they can just do anything. And then later on you can play e4 in some random situation and just get a good position. So it's a tempo, but it depends on where the pieces are placed, and oftentimes playing d4 later on may be good. So knight there, and this is interesting. Knight f1. Talking about d4. Now he's ready to play knight e6, though. That makes sense. So I'm not sure d4. I think if I play d4, he's just going to ignore it. Play knight e6. Then I have to retreat my bishop back to e3. White should be better there, though. It's nothing special. But I think that d4 is reasonable here. d4, knight e6, bishop back to e3. A slightly better position for white. The other possibility is to play, I guess, knight f1, give up on anything immediate, and on knight e6, what are we going to do? Doesn't look as appealing to me. I kind of like this delayed d4 here. This way I'm going to bring the bishop back to e3, I think. If knight e6, bishop back to e3. Nothing really great, though. My original intention was to play knight f1, but I stopped liking it because of knight e6 and knight, like bishop h4, knight f4 looks very irritating, you know, dealing with a knight on f4. And I can't have knight f1, knight e6, bishop e3, where my pieces get in each other's way. And the other plan of like taking on f6 looks like it just simplifies. So we're going to go back here. And I guess white is just a tiny bit better in a relatively simple position. Nothing special really going on. Not too exciting. So this knight b7, I wonder about this. Is this a known idea or something that Mitar just made up over the board? I'm not an authority, and I don't play these lines seriously. Just on occasion for fun, I'm playing d3. I've had some good practical results with it in online chess. Mileage 2200 tend not to lose quickly, so I'll get to play some other time, I guess. Yeah, no, but it makes sense. I mean, the dude took his worst piece and improved it, you know, and that's standard. Good fundamental planning. I like it. It just may have been a little more passive than other options for black, but I still think that Mitar is totally justified in playing the way he did. Really, really rock solid. Knight b7, knight e6. Maybe a4 here. But I'm not really making any progress, it looks like. Locking it up. Can we attack on the king's side? Maybe rook c1. With the idea of b3. b3. How about d5? Just knight c5, and feels like black is fine. He's also kind of well set up for counterplay based on f5 if I lock the center, although I'm not sure he wants to do that necessarily. a4, where's he going on a4, like bishop b7? Then we could lock the center. Feels like I'm playing on the wrong side of the board when I play a4 here. Yeah, I think this will be the last long game for today, and I might have time for a blitz game. If someone wants to throw in a blitz challenge, we could play one blitz game after this. Not really sure what to do here. I don't know, playing on the queen side doesn't really impress me. Rook c1, also kind of passive for white. I was thinking rook c1 with the idea of b3, but it just feels like I'm playing on the wrong side of the board. White's position is pretty modest, though. Maybe knight h4. Knight h4 inducing some weaknesses on the king side. That's one drawback of the knight on e6, that he interferes with his bishop on c8, protecting f5. We could play knight h4 with the idea of g6, bishop h6, then we drop d4. There's nothing special for white here, honestly. This looks really, really solid for black. I'm not at all sure about a plan. What about knight g5? Strange idea. Simplifying to get rid of that really irritating knight. It's ironic, you know, with white to trade pieces, but I decided to do this because this piece is just getting on my nerves. If I go d5 there, he just plays knight c5, and I just don't see any way to continue for white. A kingside attack doesn't seem that realistic. This seems like a key piece, so I'm going to trade it off. It's putting a lot of pressure on my position. This position is equal, you know, I'm not claiming any advantage. But maybe I could do something based on f4, though, you know, having played knight g5. Mileage, did you just suggest knight g5? Good idea. What about this though? A5 now. Wow. He's asking for A4, breaking up his structure. But then he goes B4, so I guess it's just a lie. A4, B4. I don't know which way he's going to take on E6. You know, he could take the other way too. He could take with a pawn. This doubled pawns is definitely a playable structure for black. It is kind of a long-term liability, but it does give black very good control of central squares. So that's not something I would rule out as a serious possibility. Mileage was suggesting D5 here. Maybe. But it's controversial. Anytime you close the center, take pressure off, and release the tension, it's often debatable. Like F4 is interesting. But I'm afraid he's going to roll on with the queenside B4. Maybe my F4 doesn't really do a whole lot. A4, B4. I don't know what D5 does. It just takes randomly space, but I'm very unsure about this. We got to do something. Put pressure on the center. Maybe knight F3. I'm not sure who stands better here. It feels like white has a little more control of the center. He doesn't have knight H5. If he takes on any capture here is good for white. So my rook is kind of on the wrong square though. I guess it would be better along the F file. We can create a protected passed pawn maybe. Although I'm not in love with trading pawns on E5, playing D5 and letting him trade off his bad bishop, basically like bishop C5. This try to draw an arrow there. This particular dark square exchange of bishops might be very favorable for black. So I don't want to rush into that. What was the name of the opening? This was a Lopez DST. It was a D3 kind of quiet variation of the Lopez. You've heard of it. Hard to make progress, really. Maybe we can force his hand here. This has got to be a reasonable move. Just like reducing the congestion in my position. My pieces felt like they were very much like getting in each other's way, tripping over each other, interfering with the queen, interfering with the rook, interfering with the bishop. This is more fluid. Yeah, it looks like a Sicilian now. It almost looks like a Najdorf or something. Obviously it's not because the pawns haven't been exchanged. Now I like things for white. Now I really like our position a lot more than I did. I still don't know which way to recapture though. It's so hard to decide. Every single recapture has something going for it. Even queen takes d4. Pawn takes is risky. It would give him an outside queen, queenside majority that looks really dangerous. So I think this is a tough call. I guess the natural move is taking with a knight when it really feels Sicilian-like. Bishop takes. is also very solid. Just tough to decide. I really chose almost at random. Honestly, I thought this bishop is really well placed on d4. Hitting g7, anchoring the center, protecting c3. Knight takes would also be okay. Even queen takes was possible. I feel like white's structure seems a tiny bit better somehow. Like, this is sort of backwards on d6. There is a possibility to recapture with the bishop on c3, keeping my pawn structure if he tries to open the b file, which seems good. If we have time, we'll play one more blitz game, or else this is the last game for today. We'll see. Mileage changes challenge to blitz. Blue Crow said either bishop takes or maximum e5 control. Yeah, I guess that's kind of how I felt. Just generally, like, having really good central control for white here. Looks good. 98. This looks like an attempt to simplify. Do we have any kind of attacking chances? Doesn't look that realistic, you know, like trying to checkmate black or something like that. F5 is possible. It's also very committal. E5. Spatial advantage. Actually, e5. If e5, he's probably taking on e5, and then what do I do, you know? E5 seems sort of inflexible. I don't know where to put my queen. Queen is a big issue here. This is hard to decide. I mean, f5, there's no follow-up, and it kills my bishop on c2. Like, I should try to make some kind of simple and solid moves. But I don't really know what to do exactly. Bishop a4 is even interesting. Just, maximizing the activity of my pieces. Obviously stopping a4. There's no real concrete plan with this. It stops a4, makes the bishop active. Now he goes with this move. Okay, black's playing practically. All of my pieces are developed. We cannot say the same for black, because the rook on f8. Bishop is inactive on e7, knight on e8 is bad. White must be slightly better. This pawn also seems kind of overextended, but it's not that easy to attack it. It seems difficult to make progress here for me. Well, maybe I'm threatening to take on b4. I guess we might win a pawn. If we were on the move here, with pawn takes b4. f5 is bad for both sides. I mean, I think it's very risky. f5 would... Well, maybe now that I found an alternative diagonal for my bishop, for me, f5 might be an idea. It's just inflexible. Better to keep the pawn structure more elastic. Black has basically played a very, very solid game. But I was surprised that he decided to take on d4 in this position. It seems like, I guess he didn't have a choice in retrospect. I mean, he had to do something. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised. He couldn't really maintain the tension. You know, perhaps he could have sacked the pawn. I don't know. Something like a4. No. It wasn't that easy. Guys, this is going to be the last classical game today. If we have any extra time, we'll play a blitz game. This might be it for today. We'll see. If he collapses quickly or I make some kind of blunder, I'll play one last blitz game. Otherwise, that'll be it for today. Thank you for the games. Congratulations to Mule Skinner for crushing me like a dog. We've got the knight move delays his rooks being connected, right? You know, it takes away that feature of the position. Obviously, it's very important. Now he played rook b8. Not sure what's going on here. I don't really have a great concrete plan, again. Where's my king going to be safest? Why am I moving my king at all here? Good question. He's pretty fast. Very solid. Look how solid he is. This rook move was excellent. The rook move. Rook e2 or something? Maybe I can hit his pawn again. Wait a minute, why don't I just take here? Yeah, I think I'm crazy. I can just take on b4. This obviously leaves him with a really, really bad structure. a3. Situation. So this guy Boris used to always say, just randomly, you'd be playing blitz games, this guy would be watching. There'd be silence. And Boris would just be like, situation. Alright, knight to d2, knight b1, knight c3. Knight d2 also has the virtue of I'm going to give him some activity here. It has the virtue of attacking c4. Black might find some counterplay. I'm threatening knight takes c4 and knight b6, among other things. Bishop f6. Alright, now Mr. Rook is severely limited in his mobility, but Black might have some resources. Bobby the rook pawn, no, Bobby the b pawn. What does Simon Williams call his b pawn? Bob? Without move numbers, it's hard to tell. e5 would be winning a piece after what? Bishop f6? e5? No, I can't do it there. Must have been talking about a different position. It looks like Black has resources here. Hopefully not enough. We've got the center under control. We're threatening nasty stuff. Yeah, that looks like the only move, basically. But there is an idea. Where our idea is to play rook g3, you know, to threaten mates. This is the basic principle. We're going over here to create mating attacks against the black king. So he should definitely, you know, take care of his king or something. I might have even had knight takes d6 there last move. Okay, so I can trap his rook with b3. I guess that's good enough. Not the best structure, but it does save time. Gaining a tempo. This is going to wrap it up for today guys. I think we're going to end the stream after this. I have a lesson in about an hour or so, so I'm going to pack it in. Good games. Sorry I didn't get to play Milich. What about rook g3, seriously, here? I was just kind of messing around before, but now I'm serious about rook. Rook g3, knight h5, leaves me kind of in an awkward place. First things first, I guess, rook d1, getting out of the pin, attacking his d6 pawn. I'm down to 38 seconds, so it's basically a blitz game. Bury the b pawn, of course. Bob would be so boring. Mitar resigned. Alright guys, thanks for joining me today. Again, sorry for those of you who didn't get to play. It's always kind of tough on Mondays with this time control. But we'll be back tomorrow, and it's normal blitz and classical chess tomorrow, anything between 5 and 8 minutes with a small increment. Thanks to those of you that played in the simul yesterday as well. Most Sundays I do a simul. This week though, I'm going to be streaming only through Friday, and we're going to be taking like 11 or 12 days off for the first week and a half or 2 weeks of April. So keep that in mind, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks Blue Crow for moderating. Thanks everybody for playing. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.